of NADH could be detected through an endoscope. This is the colon of a rat. In the center is a polyp. It is just 2 millimeters across. When a light of a specific wavelength shines on it, the polyp fluoresces clearly. The small early-stage tumor has been successfully detected.
It seemed to glow very distinctly. Did you get such good results right from the start?
Well, the most difficult part was that this molecule is also present in healthy cells. So we had to figure out what wavelengths of light would give us the highest contrast between cancer cells, which we are looking for, and regular healthy cells. It took a great deal of work to achieve that. Ultimately, by combining several wavelengths, we were able to find small tumors.
It seems this could really help patients. When do you expect it to be approved for general use?
Well, there are a number of issues that need to be tackled first. For example, the technique uses new wavelengths of light. Before this is broadly introduced, we need to confirm that these wavelengths do not cause any problems for the internal organs of the body that are exposed to it, such as the stomach and colon. This means that we want to start clinical trials as soon as possible. After the clinical trials are done, the technique would become available for widespread use. That's our hope.
If it becomes widespread, so many people could benefit. This technique could be incorporated into, say, the kinds of health screenings that are accessible to many people.
Oh yes, I hope that our invention will be used in exactly those kinds of health checks.
Now let's turn to the next medical application for bioimaging. Here it is. Metabolic syndrome.
Metabolic syndrome can lead to heart disease and stroke. Bioimaging is helping to reveal the details of the mechanism behind metabolic syndrome. Let's take a look.
The Clinical Research Center at the University of Tokyo Faculty of Medicine. Yamada-san visited a young researcher trying to unlock the mechanism by which visceral fat triggers disease. Assistant Professor Satoshi Nishimura has captured a series of breakthrough videos of what occurs. He conducts his research on mice. This is a normal mouse weighing 25 grams. This is a mouse with metabolic syndrome that has been fed a high-fat diet. It weighs 65 grams, more than twice a normal mouse. Special techniques are required to observe living soft tissue under a microscope. Nishimura-san developed a method in which he makes a small hole in the belly of an anesthetized mouse to study its visceral fat. Here is visceral adipose tissue of a normal mouse. Each blue glowing lump is a fat cell. Here is the mouse with metabolic syndrome. The magnification is the same as the previous image. The fat cells themselves are much bigger. It was already known that fat cells expanded, but this video revealed something else for the first time. Nishimura-san focused on the circled area.
The fuzzy-looking part is where new blood vessels are forming. And in the middle of that, we see a new fat cell being born. This has been confirmed.
What does that mean?
It means that when a person gets fatter, not only do fat cells expand in size, they increase in number, and blood vessels form there.
Wow.
Nishimura-san also has video showing something amazing that happens after new blood vessels form. Being transported through these vessels are white blood cells, which direct the body's immune system, and platelets, which cause blood to coagulate. White blood cells and platelets roll along, sticking to the interior walls of the blood vessel.
So this white thing rolling along
Is a white blood cell. Some of the white blood cells flow along in the blood plasma, while others slowly roll along the walls of the blood vessel.
As Nishimura-san continued his observations, he saw white blood cells pass out of the blood vessels and attach to fat cells. Here, a type of white blood cell called a macrophage is initiating inflammation.
I believe chronic inflammation is occurring in fat tissue.
chronic inflammation?
Yes, and the inflammation in the fat tissues is triggering diabetes and other conditions affecting the entire body.
Visceral fat in a state of chronic inflammation releases hormones called bad adipokines. Bad adipokines spread through the body and bring on arteriosclerosis, inhibiting the function of insulin and triggering diabetes. The footage captured by Nishimura-san gives breakthrough insights into how metabolic syndrome progresses. Scientists have conjectured that as metabolic syndrome-induced chronic inflammation develops, blood clots become more common throughout the body. Nishimura-san captured footage of this process as well. This is a blood vessel in the gut of a mouse with metabolic syndrome. On the upper left of the screen, you can see platelets beginning to adhere to the inside of the blood vessel. Their numbers grow until the flow of blood is impeded. In the end, a clot forms and the blood flow is completely cut off. When this phenomenon occurs in the brain or heart, the result is a stroke or heart attack.
I had no idea visceral fat could have such scary effects. It's frightening.
Well, looking at that, I saw why we should try to avoid metabolic syndrome. The risks are very clear.
It certainly is scary. Those images have genuine impact.
The conventional image of metabolic syndrome is one of increased cholesterol in the bloodstream sticking to the blood vessel walls. That seems to be people's image of it. And that does in fact happen. But in addition to that, we've also learned that chronic inflammation in adipose tissue leads to the production of bad adipokines. We also know that bad adipokines can cause damage to the innermost layer of endothelial cells in the blood vessel. And this partially explains the link between metabolic syndrome and arteriosclerosis.
Searching for a treatment for the chronic inflammation of visceral fat, Nishimura-san experimented with a certain drug. Let's have a look at some images. On the left, we see the formation of new fat cells and new blood vessels in a mouse that is starting to suffer inflammation. On the right, we see a mouse that is being given a drug to inhibit new blood vessel growth. On the right, there are no new cells or blood vessels visible. This means the inflammation has been suppressed. Apparently, it was also shown that this improves insulin function.
Metabolic syndrome can have life or death consequences because it can lead to diseases such as arteriosclerosis, so it is a real breakthrough to have finally discovered the mechanism behind that link. And by understanding that mechanism, we now have the grounds to know what kind of treatment could work. In that sense, Your work is a reminder of the importance of fundamental research.
In fact, recent research has revealed that chronic inflammation is involved in the onset of cancer as well. One example is a stomach pathogen called Helicobacter pylori. When that is contracted, it causes chronic inflammation. We found that a high percentage of those who suffer from this chronic inflammation develop stomach cancer. Right now, our research is focused on using bioimaging to discover the mechanism that exists behind this connection.
Bioimaging allows researchers to light up living cells. Today, we're looking at research on its medical applications. Let's have a closer look. Takamatsu-san made this video.
These are muscle cells from a rat heart. When they are blue, the concentration of calcium ions is low. When they become white, it means the concentration is high. As they turn from blue to white, the concentration increases, the cardiac muscle cells contract, and the heart pumps blood out.
That pumping movement has a clear rhythm. It's a very vivid image of a heart beating.
And now another bioimaging video.
This shows what happens when a heart undergoes myocardial infarction. Here, the arrhythmia is beginning. You can see that the cells are contracting out of sync with each other. Arrhythmia is common in heart attacks, but until now, no one knew the cause. Now we can see what happens using bioimaging. And so we know for the first time that deviations in calcium ion concentrations can cause arrhythmia. That should help in the search for effective treatment.